Good evening, dear soul. I am Tara, and tonight we meet again, not in noise, not in hurry, but in stillness. Outside, the world continues to hum, cars sighing, clocks ticking, hearts racing. But here, in this quiet space, you have arrived where time slows down. You have crossed the threshold between the doing and the being. Wherever you are listening from, a quiet room in the city, a small village near the river, or a balcony under starlight, take a moment to simply arrive. Let your breath meet you here. Breathe in gently, and breathe out even more softly. Each breath is an arrival, each exhale a release. Tonight, we explore a question that has touched every human heart. Why can't I stop thinking about that one person? The one whose memory drifts through your days. The one whose voice echoes in the quiet hours. The one whose absence feels louder than presence. You might have tried to move on, to distract yourself, to busy the mind. And yet, they return like a tide that refuses to ebb. Why? Zen Buddhism has been whispering the answer for centuries, not as dogma, but as gentle truth. We cannot stop thinking of another because the mind has mistaken its own reflection for someone else's shadow. In this journey tonight, we will wander through the teachings of the Buddha and the quiet paths of Zen, not to find an instant cure, but to remember a deeper kind of peace, the peace that comes when we understand our thoughts, our attachments, and our own heart. To understand everything is to forgive everything. The Buddha, the night is soft, and wisdom moves quietly. So let us begin with something very simple: presence. Close your eyes if you wish. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath, like waves washing upon the shore of your being. You are not chasing thoughts tonight. You are simply watching them float by. Each thought, like a small paper lantern, drifts across the dark surface of your awareness. Some carry faces, some carry voices, some carry longing. Do not grab them. Do not push them away. Just watch them pass. There is a vastness within you, a space larger than all your thoughts combined. In Zen, it is called shunyata, the emptiness that is not void, but fullness itself. It is the silence before sound, the stillness before movement, the pause between breaths. When you rest in that space, you realize that the mind's noise, even its longing, cannot harm you. It is only a ripple upon the surface of your infinite depth. So tonight, as you listen, imagine that your thoughts are like stars scattered across a night sky. Some shine brighter, some fade, some seem too close to forget. Yet beyond them, all lies the vast sky of awareness that never changes. That sky is you. You are not the stars. You are the space that holds them. The people who appear again and again in your thoughts are simply constellations, temporary patterns of light that the mind connects into stories. They are not permanent. They are not the sky itself. They only seem endless because we keep tracing their shapes over and over, fearing the darkness in between. When the mind is still, the universe surrenders its secrets. Zen saying, "You see, when we stop fighting our thoughts, they begin to lose their urgency. When we stop chasing silence, silence arrives." This is the paradox of Zen. Peace is not achieved, it is remembered. So wherever you are right now, whisper to yourself, "I am here, I am breathing, I am enough." If someone's image rises in your mind, do not resist it. Allow it to pass before you like a traveler crossing a bridge. They are not the bridge, they are only passing across it. You are the river beneath, always flowing, always whole. Perhaps tonight, for the first time, you can see that thinking of someone endlessly is not a punishment. It is a message, a call from within, asking for attention, understanding, and release. You are not haunted by another's presence. You are being guided toward your own awakening. And that awakening begins not with forgetting, but with seeing clearly. So let us begin this night's journey not by asking, "How can I stop thinking of them?" but by asking, "What might these thoughts be showing me?" For every memory that arises has a reason, and every reason hides a lesson. Let the stillness cradle you. Let your breath lead you back to the truth that is older than time. You are not your thoughts. You are not your memories. You are not even the one who clings. You are awareness itself, vast, gentle, unbroken. And as the night deepens, may that awareness rise within you like the moon over a quiet lake, clear, whole, and radiant. Sleep, if it comes, will come like grace. But for now, stay awake in stillness. The journey has only begun. There was once a young monk who sat beneath a great fig tree, his eyes closed in meditation. Yet, even in the stillness, a face would arise in his mind, a woman he had known before taking his vows. Her laughter, her eyes, the warmth of her presence would return like soft waves across his thoughts. He would breathe, try to let go, but the memory returned again and again, like a flame refusing to die. One morning, unable to bear it, he went to his master and said, "I have given up everything, but not her memory. Why does she not leave my mind?" The master smiled, not unkindly, and said, "Because you are still trying to hold what was never yours to keep." The monk bowed his head, and in that moment the lesson began. Attachment, it is a quiet fire burning unseen. It begins in the gentlest of ways, a fondness, a comfort, a shared joy. But slowly, what was once appreciation becomes need, and what was once warmth becomes hunger. Zen teaches that love and attachment are not the same, though they often wear the same face. True love, said the Buddha, brings peace. Attachment brings disturbance. Love says, "May you be happy." Attachment says, "Be mine." When someone lives in your thoughts constantly, it is easy to mistake the noise for love. But if thinking of them brings restlessness instead of stillness, it is not love. It is attachment wearing a beautiful mask. To hold on to anger or desire or longing is like grasping a burning coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. The Buddha, Attachment is the belief that our happiness depends on another. It whispers, "I will be whole when they return." It says, "I will find peace when they see my worth." But Zen asks a simple question. What if peace is already within you? Imagine holding water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. So it is with people, with love, with life. The tighter we hold, the faster it flows through our fingers. The monk beneath the fig tree learned this truth slowly. He began to watch his longing instead of fighting it. He saw how each thought of the woman carried not love, but fear of losing, fear of being forgotten, fear of incompleteness. And he realized that as long as fear remained, he could not love purely. The root of suffering is attachment. The Buddha. You may feel this too. Perhaps you have someone whose absence feels like silence after music. Someone whose memory feels stitched into your heartbeat. You do not have to tear it away. You only have to see it for what it is. The mind clings because it mistakes connection for identity. But the truth is simple. You are not incomplete without anyone. Love that clings is born of fear. Love that frees is born of understanding. In Buddhist practice, we cultivate what is called metta, or loving kindness. It is the art of wishing well without wanting to possess. It is saying, "May you be free from suffering. May you find peace." It is love that gives without needing to hold. So when that person comes into your mind again, as they will, try not to resist. Instead, breathe deeply and whisper within, "May you be happy wherever you are. May you find peace. May I too find peace." This is not letting go in bitterness. It is letting go in wisdom. It is the gentle act of releasing your grasp while keeping your heart open. Attachment believes that letting go ends love. But true love begins only when attachment ends. There is a story in Zen of a master who asked his student to carry a cup filled to the brim with water across the courtyard without spilling a drop. The student walked carefully, eyes fixed on the cup. When he returned, trembling, the master said, "Now go again. But this time, do not worry if it spills." The student returned lighter, freer, laughing at the drops that fell. The master smiled and said, "That is the difference between love and attachment. When you stop fearing loss, you begin to see beauty in every moment, not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't. Love, in its purest form, is like sunlight. It touches everything, but clings to nothing. Attachment, on the other hand, is like a torch. It lights one thing, but consumes itself in the process. So tonight, as you listen, breathe softly and remember, you do not need to stop loving someone to find peace. You only need to love them without holding. Let love be a quiet blessing, not a desperate prayer. Let your heart be the open sky, where clouds of memory pass freely. And when longing rises, greet it as a teacher. Bow to it, thank it, and let it pass. For the fire of attachment is not your enemy. It is your guide. It burns not to destroy you, but to reveal what is real and what is illusion. And when you finally see the difference, the fire goes out on its own, leaving behind only light. Long ago, there was a monk who could not escape a single dream. Each night, he saw the same vision, a stranger's face gazing at him through mist, neither kind nor cruel, just present. No matter how deeply he meditated, how many mantras he recited, the dream returned night after night. Finally, weary and bewildered, he went to his teacher and asked, "Why do I keep seeing this person? Why can't my mind let them go?" The teacher looked at him quietly and said, "Because you have not yet completed what was begun." Karma, in the Buddhist understanding, is not punishment, it is continuation. It is not about blame or fate, but about harmony. Every connection in life, every friendship, every heartbreak, every meeting and parting is part of a great web of cause and effect. The threads stretch across time and lifetimes, weaving lessons that seek completion. When someone refuses to leave your thoughts, it may not be because of desire or longing, but because a lesson remains unfinished. A truth still waits to be seen. An emotion still seeks to be honored. No one in your life is a coincidence. All who meet you bring a message. Buddhist teaching. Perhaps this person hurt you, and forgiveness never took root. Or perhaps you hurt them, and guilt still lingers quietly beneath awareness. It could be that they represented something your soul needed to understand: patience, humility, compassion, or strength. Until the lesson completes, the mind returns to it again and again, like water seeking its level, like a bell still ringing after being struck. We often call it obsession or haunting, but in truth, it is karma asking to be balanced. There is a story told in Zen of two travelers who meet on a bridge. One helps the other cross the rushing stream. They share a brief moment of connection and then part ways. But years later, one cannot stop thinking of that day, not the bridge, not the water, not the journey, only the person's eyes as they met in silence. He seeks out a monk and asks, "Why does that memory return again and again?" The monk answers, "Because the crossing was not finished." And so it is with us. We think we have left something behind, but in truth, the crossing continues within the heart. To complete karma, we must see clearly, without resentment, without self-punishment, without denial. Ask softly within yourself, what is left unresolved between us? What emotion have I hidden under reason? What truth about myself does this connection reveal? The answers do not come through logic. They arise through stillness. In silence, karma unfolds its lesson gently, like a lotus opening in slow dawn light. If you find someone's image keeps reappearing in your mind, pause and listen. Perhaps their role was not to stay beside you, but to awaken something within you. Maybe they arrived to teach you courage, to speak truth. Maybe they came to teach surrender, to release control. Maybe they came to teach compassion, to love without condition. The wound is the place where the light enters you. roomy, echoing Buddhist truth. When the monk from the beginning of our story finally met the stranger from his dream, he discovered that the person was not a threat, nor a savior, but a mirror. The dream had carried an unfinished emotion from long ago. When he bowed to the figure and whispered, "I understand," the dream never returned. Completion, not forgetting, is the end of karma. Sometimes this completion comes through forgiveness, sometimes through understanding, sometimes through simple acceptance that the story has ended. To finish a karmic cycle, you do not need to force closure with another person. You only need to see the lesson clearly, with compassion. Zen practice calls this turning the light inward. Instead of asking, "Why won't they leave my thoughts?" ask, "What within me is calling for attention?" The moment you recognize the lesson, the grip loosens. The person's image becomes softer, lighter, like mist dissolving in morning sun. The energy that once bound you now flows freely again, into peace, into understanding. And in that freedom, gratitude appears. For even the most painful connections carry hidden gifts. The Buddha said, "Every being you meet is your teacher." Some teach through kindness, others through suffering. So tonight, if a memory comes, instead of fighting it, bow to it. Whisper softly, "Thank you for teaching me." Because when you accept the lesson, the karma completes itself. No one truly holds you captive. It is your own soul asking for release through recognition. Like the sound of a bell fading into silence, every echo of the past eventually dissolves when it has been heard. What remains is not the weight of memory, but the clarity of wisdom. And then one night, perhaps when you least expect it, you will realize the person who once filled your every thought is simply gone. Not forgotten, not erased, but transformed into light, into stillness, into peace. There was once a young monk who swept the temple courtyard each morning just as the sun rose. He took great pride in his work, the patterns in the sand perfect, the stones aligned like beads in prayer. One day, another monk passed by and said lightly, "You missed a spot." The young monk smiled politely, but inside, a flicker of irritation rose. That night, as he sat in meditation, the words returned again and again, "You missed a spot." By dawn, he was still restless, so he went to his master and confessed. I don't know why his words disturb me so much. The master smiled and said, "You are not upset by his words, but by the reflection they awaken." This is the teaching of the shadow. In Zen, as in all paths of deep awareness, we learn that every person we meet is a mirror. Some reflect our gentleness, others our hidden fears. Some show us what we wish to become, others what we wish to avoid. Yet, all are reflections of the same mind. When someone lingers in your thoughts, when their face returns again and again, it may not be love or even memory. It may be your shadow calling for recognition. The shadow is not darkness in a moral sense. It is simply what we have refused to see. It holds our repressed confidence, our unspoken anger, our unhealed wounds. The people who trigger us, who make us feel small, jealous, or uneasy, often embody the very qualities we deny in ourselves. The Buddha taught, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. In that truth lies a deeper one. We see in others what we secretly believe about ourselves. So when another person dominates your mind, pause and ask, what part of me do they represent? Why do I need them to be this way? What feeling in me do they awaken? Perhaps the one who makes you feel envious reflects the confidence you have not allowed yourself. Perhaps the one who frustrates you mirrors your own impatience. Perhaps the one you idealize embodies the potential you have forgotten to claim. When you see this, something softens. The mind stops pointing outward and begins to turn inward toward understanding. The world is a mirror and your mind the painter. Zen proverb. The young monk in our story realized that his irritation wasn't about the comment. It was pride. He wanted to be perfect, to be seen as faultless. The other monk's words had touched that hidden corner of his ego. When he bowed to this truth, his anger dissolved like smoke in morning air. We all have this same task, to meet the mirror without judgment. The moment we stop defending ourselves from what the reflection shows, it becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. So the next time someone's image rises in your mind again and again, see if you can sit quietly and whisper, what are you showing me about myself? Then wait. The answer will come not as thought, but as a subtle feeling, a knowing that dawns without words. This is the essence of Zen self-inquiry, not to fix the outer world, but to illuminate the inner one. When you see your reflection clearly, the other person's hold on your mind begins to fade naturally. They no longer appear as villains or saints, but as guides who walked with you for a short while, holding a mirror so you could see yourself more fully. The Buddha said, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. When we understand the shadow, peace is that word. The people who stay in our thoughts often do so because the lesson of reflection is incomplete. Once we see the truth they carry, they no longer need to stay. Their purpose fulfilled, they bow and depart. Just as the morning shadow retreats when the sun rises high, and in that moment of seeing, something beautiful happens. The energy once spent on resistance becomes compassion. You begin to look at others not with judgment, but with curiosity. You begin to realize that every human being, no matter how difficult or radiant, is simply revealing a piece of the shared whole. When you understand others, you understand yourself. When you understand yourself, you understand the whole world. Zen saying. So tonight, as you rest, if a person comes to mind who stirs your heart, whether with love, jealousy, anger, or longing, do not turn away. Look gently at the reflection they bring. Maybe they are showing you your capacity for love. Maybe they are reminding you of your fear of loss. Maybe they are asking you to see the parts of yourself you have long ignored. And as you breathe in, say softly, I see you. As you breathe out, say, thank you. For that simple act transforms shadow into light. It turns the mirror into a window through which you can finally see the vastness of your own being. When you awaken to that understanding, the person who once occupied your thoughts becomes something else entirely. Not a ghost, not an obsession, but a gift. And like all gifts in the path of awakening, their true value lies not in their presence, but in the truth they reveal within you. In a quiet Zen garden, where stones were arranged like islands in a sea of sand, a woman visited each morning to watch the sunrise. She loved the sound of water trickling from a bamboo fountain, and the way the light changed color as the world woke up. One day, she saw a single red leaf resting perfectly on the surface of the pond. It was so beautiful, so still, that she reached out to touch it. But the moment her fingers brushed the water, the leaf sank and vanished. The gardener, an old monk, saw what happened and said gently, "When you try to hold the moment, you drown it." The woman looked into the rippling water and saw her reflection tremble. She understood her sorrow was not for the leaf, but for every moment she had tried to keep still, every love she had tried to preserve exactly as it once was. Expectation is like that hand reaching into the pond. It disturbs what it tries to possess. Zen teaches that suffering is born from attachment to outcomes, the desire for things to unfold according to the mind's plan. When we expect others to behave a certain way, when we demand that love lasts, or that recognition arrives, or that closure comes in a form we understand, we bind ourselves with invisible chains. Peace is found not in getting what you want, but in accepting what is. Zen saying, expectation is the mind's refusal to trust the natural flow of life. It says, I will be happy when, and so, happiness is always postponed. The Buddha called this tanha, craving a thirst that can never be quenched. The more we drink, the more it grows. When you are trapped in thoughts of someone who will not leave your mind, ask yourself quietly, what do I expect from them that reality has not given? Am I waiting for an apology, a reunion, or a version of them that never truly existed? We often think we are missing a person, but sometimes we are mourning an imagined outcome. Expectation turns love into a transaction. If you respond, I am at peace. If you don't, I suffer. But Zen love, pure, boundless, compassionate, expects nothing. It gives freely, without measuring return. There was once a student who asked his master, "How can I know if my love is true?" The master replied, "When your love survives without being returned, it is true." To live without expectation is not to stop caring. It is to stop bargaining with life. It is to understand that everything, every encounter, every emotion has its own lifespan. Some people enter like summer storms, brilliant and brief. Others stay like the steady mountains. Both are sacred. The woman in the Zen garden returned the next day. Again, she saw a leaf floating upon the pond. This time, she only watched. The breeze came, and the leaf drifted slowly to the edge, where it disappeared beneath the stones. She smiled. For the first time, she saw that the beauty of the moment lay not in keeping it, but in letting it pass untouched. Let go of what was, let be what is, and have faith in what will be. Zen proverb. Expectation is a cage built from should, and if only. Acceptance is the open sky. When you release the mind's demands, life begins to reveal its quiet wisdom. Perhaps what left you was meant to leave. Perhaps what never began was meant to remain only as possibility. A whisper, not a chapter. When you surrender the plan, you make space for grace. Zen calls this beginner's mind, to meet each moment as if for the first time, without memory, without judgment. The world becomes simple again, alive, unpredictable, beautiful. Even pain becomes sacred, for it too is impermanent. Close your eyes now and imagine holding a bird in your hands. If you grip too tightly, you harm it. If you leave your hands open, it may rest for a while and then fly away. True love is like that. It visits, it teaches, and when the time comes, it leaves. But its echo, the lesson, the tenderness, remains forever. In the stillness that follows expectation's release, something remarkable happens. Gratitude appears. Gratitude for what was, for what is, and for what might yet come. Gratitude turns loss into offering. The Buddha said, "When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky, not because everything is painless, but because you finally see that even the pain has purpose." So tonight, if you feel weighed down by unmet hopes, by words unsaid, or dreams undone, whisper to yourself, "I release the story. I release the ending. I release the need to know why." Then breathe and listen to the silence that follows. In that silence, there is peace. And in that peace, you may discover that what you longed for most deeply was never a person or a promise, but freedom. For in the garden of Zen, everything that is held too tightly sinks, but everything that is allowed to flow shines. In a monastery near a wide, flowing river, there lived a young monk named Ryota. Every dawn, he would sit beside the water and meditate, listening to the rhythm of the current. Yet each morning, as he closed his eyes, the same thought would return, the memory of someone from his past. The more he tried to quiet his mind, the louder the thought became. It was as if every ripple in the river whispered that name back to him. At last, he went to the abbot and said, "Master, I cannot find peace. I push away my thoughts, but they keep returning stronger than before. What should I do?" The abbot smiled kindly and said, "When a bird lands on a branch, does the branch try to push it away?" Ryota shook his head. The abbot continued, "The mind is the branch. Thoughts are the birds. Let them come, let them go." That night, Ryota returned to the river. He sat again, but this time he did not fight his thoughts. He watched them. He saw them come and go, like passing clouds reflected in the water. One moment, he was thinking of the person who lingered in his heart. The next, the thought was gone, replaced by stillness. In that moment of quiet observation, he realized something extraordinary. He was not his thoughts. This is one of the simplest, yet most profound truths in Buddhism, that the mind's activity is not who you are. Thoughts are not chains, they are clouds. They pass through the sky of awareness, sometimes dark and heavy, sometimes light and golden, but they never stain the sky itself. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. Buddhist teaching: when someone occupies your mind again and again, it can feel as though their presence defines you, as though the thought itself has power over you. But a thought is only an echo. It is not the truth. It is the mind replaying an old pattern, hoping to find closure, understanding, or safety. In Zen, the practice is not to suppress these thoughts, but to watch them like leaves floating down a stream. The moment you stop identifying with them, they begin to lose their weight. Try it now. The next time a thought arises, I miss them, I need them, I wish things had been different, pause. Instead of saying, I miss them, try whispering, there is a thought about missing them. Notice the difference. You create space between the thinker and the thought, and in that space, freedom is born. The Buddha said, nothing can harm you as much as your own thoughts, unguarded. But when guarded with awareness, thoughts become harmless. They are simply ripples in the pond of the mind. When you are lost in thought, you live in the movie of your mind, reacting to shadows as if they were real. But when you watch your thoughts, you step into the audience where the story unfolds on its own. Ryota learned this lesson slowly. He began to treat every returning memory, every intrusive thought, as a visitor. He would greet it gently. Ah, here you are again. And then, like a host who does not linger, he would let it leave. Over time, the visitors came less often, and when they did, they stayed only for a moment. Let your thoughts come and go. Just don't serve them tea. Zen proverb: thoughts have no power until you believe them. They are like waves rising and falling in the vast sea of consciousness. The sea never fears its waves. It allows them to come and pass. So too can you learn to be the ocean, not the ripple. When you realize that thinking of someone is not a curse, but a passing wave, you stop being swept away. The thought still arises, but you no longer drown in it. You simply float. In meditation, monks often visualize thoughts as clouds drifting through the sky. You do not chase them, nor do you force them away. You simply notice, ah, a cloud. And as your attention shifts to the vastness around it, the cloud dissolves naturally. This is the trick of thought. It appears solid, but it is vapor. It feels heavy, but it weighs nothing. The mind may whisper, I cannot stop thinking of them, but awareness replies, then think, but see through it. For when you see through a thought, it loses its hold. The river beside Ryota flowed endlessly. endlessly. And one morning, as he gazed at its reflection, he noticed that the sky was perfectly clear. No clouds, no ripples, only stillness. And in that stillness, he realized that peace was never something to create. It was always there, waiting beneath the noise. The Buddha once said, "As rain breaks through an ill-thatched house, passion breaks through an untrained mind. But when the mind is trained, when it learns to observe rather than obey, not even the strongest storm can shake your peace." So if tonight your thoughts seem relentless, do not fight them. Sit beside the river of your own awareness and watch them drift. The one who watches is untouched, unchanged, eternal. You are not the thinker. You are the stillness in which thinking happens. And when that truth settles deep in your being, you will discover that no person, no memory, and no thought can ever truly bind you again. For the thoughts will pass, the river will flow, and the sky, your true self, will always remain clear. There was once a poet who came to a Zen monastery high in the hills. His eyes were weary, his heart heavy. He had lost someone he loved deeply and could not escape the ache. "Master," he said, kneeling before the abbot, "my grief feels eternal. I have prayed, I have wept, I have written 100 poems, but still the pain remains. Will this longing ever end?" The abbot said nothing. He poured tea for the poet, slowly, deliberately, until the cup overflowed. The tea spilled across the table and onto the floor. The poet cried out, "Stop, it's full." The master looked at him and said softly, "Yes, because you keep pouring." In that simple act, the poet saw the truth. He had been filling his heart again and again with memories, replaying moments, refusing to let the past rest. His grief did not last because it was eternal. It lasted because he would not stop feeding it. Zen teaches that everything in life, joy, pain, love, sorrow, is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever, not even the thoughts that seem endless. Impermanence is not a curse. It is the pulse of existence. It is the rhythm that makes life beautiful. This too will change. Ancient Zen proverb. But the mind resists impermanence. It clings to what was and fears what will be. It tells stories of always and never. Yet the truth is, nothing remains the same. Not the seasons, not the stars, not even your heartbeat. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we mistake the temporary for the eternal. When we say, "This feeling will never fade," we give it power it does not possess. Every wave, no matter how strong, returns to the ocean. The poet stayed in the monastery. Each morning, he walked along the riverbank. Some days the water was calm, some days wild, some days frozen in stillness. But he noticed one thing: no matter what the surface looked like, it always moved. The river never stayed the same. And slowly, he began to see that his grief, too, was moving. It was not stagnant. It was flowing through him, reshaping him. The illusion of forever fades when you begin to observe change instead of resisting it. When you say, "I will will always feel this way. Stop and look deeper. Is it true? Do you feel now exactly as you did a month ago, or even a week ago? No, the sharpness softens, the edges blur, the story shifts. You are changing moment by moment, breath by breath, and so are your thoughts. Everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make your peace with that, and all will be well. The Buddha, impermanence, is life's greatest teacher, because it reminds us that nothing we cling to can truly define us. The face you cannot forget, the conversation that echoes, the absence that aches, all will pass through you like clouds across the sky. Once a monk asked his master, "How can I free myself from sorrow?" The master replied, "Realize that the one who suffers is also impermanent." We try to hold on to feelings because we fear what will replace them. But when you trust impermanence, you see that life always brings new forms, new lessons, new love. Even endings are not final, they are transformations. Look around you. The petals fall, yet next spring the branches bloom again. The moon wanes, but always returns to fullness. The child grows, the seasons turn, the waves break and retreat. And so too do your thoughts. Imagine your mind as a vast sky. Every emotion, every memory, every person you cannot forget, each is a cloud passing through. Some linger longer than others, but none remain forever. If you wait long enough, even the storm will clear, and the blue sky, your awareness, will shine through again. The poet finally wrote his last poem in the monastery. It read, "The leaf fell yesterday, but the branch still sings. I have learned that love does not end. It only changes form. That is the true heart of impermanence. Love never disappears. It simply evolves." The pain of loss, too, is not a punishment, but a reminder that you have loved deeply. The ache will fade, but its wisdom remains. So if tonight you feel trapped in a feeling that seems endless, whisper gently, "This too will pass," not as a dismissal, but as a truth older than time. Feel your breath in, out, each one a small creation and dissolution. Even this breath is impermanent, and yet life continues. When you surrender to impermanence, you begin to see the beauty in every passing thing. You stop clinging to the moment and begin to live in its flow. You realize that what was never meant to stay was only meant to teach. And when that understanding settles in your heart, the illusion of forever dissolves, not into emptiness, but into peace. Because everything changes, anything is possible. Zen saying. So rest now, dear listener. Whatever haunts you tonight is already on its way to becoming something else. Your sorrow will become insight. Your longing will become clarity. Your love will become compassion. The river keeps flowing. The clouds keep drifting. And you, vast, luminous, eternal awareness, remain untouched. All things pass, and in that passing, all things are renewed. Long ago, in a quiet monastery nestled among cherry blossoms and whispering pines, there lived a nun named Seo. She was known for her kindness and stillness, yet those close to her sensed a quiet sorrow. For many years, she carried within her heart the memory of someone she had loved deeply, a man she had known before renouncing the world. His image still appeared before her eyes when she prayed. His voice still echoed in the silence of her meditation. One evening, as she sat under the lantern light, her teacher approached and asked gently, "Seo, what burden still stirs your mind?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Master, though I have taken vows of peace, I cannot free my heart from this one soul. He visits my thoughts even after all these years. Have I failed in my practice?" The master smiled, his eyes kind, and said, "Not every bond is meant to be broken. Some are meant to awaken." That night, Seo sat longer than usual. The candle burned low, and the sound of night insects filled the courtyard. As she watched the flame flicker, she began to understand. This connection that would not fade was not a punishment or mistake. It was a lesson, a sacred assignment given by life itself. Zen Buddhism teaches that the people who touch us most deeply are not accidents. They are messengers, carriers of karmic threads, woven long before this life began. Some come to bring love, others to teach surrender. Some arrive to awaken strength, others to reveal our tenderness, and a few appear only to guide us toward ourselves. Certain souls enter your path not to stay, but to awaken you to who you truly are. Zen teaching: when someone refuses to leave your mind, it may be because their purpose has not yet been fulfilled. The soul recognizes that there is something incomplete, not between two people, but within the self. Perhaps they mirror a part of you that is still waiting to be healed. Perhaps their presence calls you to understand love without possession, compassion without reward, forgiveness without words. When the lesson is seen, the energy of longing transforms into peace. The Buddha said, "Those who appear before you are your mirrors. They come to reveal your own reflection." In her meditation, Seo began to see her beloved not as a man of the past, but as a symbol of love itself, vast, pure, and unattached. He had entered her life to show her what her heart was capable of feeling. But true mastery lay not in keeping that feeling bound to a person, but in expanding it to all beings. Slowly, she began a new practice. Each night, when his image appeared in her mind, she would whisper, "May you be free from suffering. May you walk in peace. May I, too, be free." The first few nights, she wept as she spoke the words. But with time, the tears turned to stillness. The ache in her heart became a soft light, and the face that once haunted her now glowed like a distant star, a symbol, not of pain, but of gratitude. This is the mystery of the soul assignment, that love is never wasted. Every person who touches your life becomes part of your spiritual unfolding. The mind calls it memory, but the soul calls it evolution. When you meet someone who stirs your depths, ask yourself, what did my soul invite this person to teach me? And when they leave, as all must, ask, what did I learn that I could not have learned alone? Sometimes the lesson is joy. Sometimes it is heartbreak. Sometimes it is silence. But in all cases, it is sacred. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, even if the teacher comes disguised as heartbreak. Zen proverb. Seo's teacher once told her, "A river does not regret the stones that shaped its song." And so she came to see her connection not as a chain, but as a sculptor, carving depth and tenderness into her being. Each soul we meet gives us a gift, the gift of knowing ourselves more truly. Some open our hearts, some break them open, but all awaken us if we let them. By the end of her life, Seo had become a teacher herself. She was known not for the scriptures she recited, but for the peace in her presence. When students asked her the secret of her serenity, she would say softly, "I once loved deeply, and I learned to let that love belong to the universe." And so, dear listener, if there is someone you cannot forget, perhaps you are still in the middle of your lesson. Do not rush to erase it. Do not curse the longing. Instead, hold it gently and ask, what awakening seeks to unfold through this connection? When you find the answer, the energy between you will shift. The person may remain in your thoughts, but the pain will not. The fire will cool, and in its place will be a quiet warmth, the light of understanding. This is the truth of the soul assignment. We meet each other not to possess, not to complete, but to evolve. And when evolution is complete, love does not end, it simply expands. The Buddha once said, "In the end, these things matter most. How well did you love? How fully did you live? How deeply did you let go?" So when your heart remembers someone tonight, do not see it as a burden. See it as a calling, the whisper of your soul, guiding you toward greater compassion, greater wisdom, and greater peace. There was a time when Seo, the nun of the Cherry Blossom Monastery, believed that peace meant forgetting. She thought if she could erase every trace of her memories, she would finally be free. But one morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, she saw the mist drifting down from the peaks, not vanishing, only changing form. In that instant, she understood. Nothing is ever truly erased. It is only transformed. Release, in the language of Zen, is not about losing. It is about seeing clearly. The Buddha said, "Letting go is not the act of giving up. It is the act of understanding." You cannot release what you still resist. You cannot be free of what you still fear to face. And so, Seo learned to sit with her thoughts, the way one sits beside a friend, without judgment, without hurry, without demand. Each time the man's memory appeared, she no longer fought it. She greeted it with a bow. "Ah," she would whisper softly, "you have come again." Instead of pushing it away, she let it rise and fade naturally, like a wave finding the shore. She realized that every thought, every feeling, every face that returned was part of her training. The universe teaching her the art of compassion through remembrance. When you let go, you do not lose what you love. You make room for love to grow. Zen saying, the first step on the gentle path of release is observation. When the thought of someone arises, do not resist and do not follow. Simply notice. Observe how it feels, not with the mind, but with the body. Does the heart tighten? Does the breath quicken? That tension is not the person. It is your attachment revealing itself. The second step is compassion. Whisper to yourself, this too is a part of me longing to be healed. For every thought, even the painful ones, is simply a fragment of your own energy returning home. In this way, Seo began to turn her longing into a meditation of kindness. When the face of her beloved appeared, she would breathe in softly and say, "May you be free." When the ache of absence grew, she would breathe out and say, "May I be free." Each breath became a prayer, each memory a doorway to presence. This practice of releasing through love is called metta, loving kindness meditation. It transforms clinging into care and pain into purity. It is not forgetting, it is forgiving. It is not closing the heart. It is opening it wide enough to hold everything without breaking. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May my heart be boundless. Traditional metta chant. There is an old Zen story of two monks walking along a muddy road. They came upon a woman unable to cross. One monk lifted her and carried her across. Hours later, the other monk scolded him, saying, "We monks must not touch women." The first monk smiled and said, "Brother, I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Seo smiled when she first heard this tale, for she understood its meaning deeply. She too had been carrying her memories long after they had ended. Each thought of her beloved was like that woman on the muddy road, a burden she had long since set down, yet continued to carry in her mind. To release is not to throw away. It is to recognize what no longer needs to be held. As Seo's meditation deepened, something subtle began to shift. The memories still came, but they felt lighter, as if the wind passed through them. She began to see that even her thoughts were not her enemies. They were simply visitors, and like all visitors, they would leave when their purpose was fulfilled. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Rainer Maria Rilke. The gentle path of release asks you to trust that nothing in life is truly lost. What you let go of in form remains within you as wisdom. When you release someone with love, you are not closing a door. You are opening your soul wider. So tonight, as you listen, breathe deeply. Feel the rhythm of your breath, the rise, the fall, the quiet pause between. Inhale acceptance. Exhale release. If a face comes to mind, do not push it away. Whisper softly, "Thank you for what you have taught me. You may go now." Say it not with bitterness, but with gratitude, for they were a teacher in disguise, showing you where love still wished to grow. Over time, release becomes less of an act and more of a state, a constant openness to the movement of life. The river flows, the seasons change, the heart renews itself again and again. You begin to see that there was never anything to let go of, only something to understand. When Seo finally reached enlightenment, her teacher asked her what she had learned. She smiled and replied, "I learned that letting go is the final form of love. And so, dear listener, if someone still lingers in your thoughts, do not struggle. Do not turn away. Sit with them in kindness until their image fades into the light of your awareness. You will find, in the end, that you have not lost them. You have simply returned them to the peace from which they came. There is a river that runs through every soul, unseen yet unending. It flows beneath our words, beneath our silences, beneath the endless movement of thought. Sometimes it glimmers with light. Sometimes it carries the heaviness of memory. And every so often, a stone is dropped into its depths. The memory of a person, a moment, a wound. The ripples begin, and we call them thoughts. We feel the water stir and call it longing. We see the circles widening and name it sorrow. But the river never stops being the river. The disturbance is only temporary. Zen teaches that the mind is this river, clear, flowing, ever renewing, and that no matter how heavy the stone, the current will always find its way back to stillness. Once a monk came to his master and said, "Master, my mind is full of thoughts. I try to still them, but they keep returning." The master led him to a nearby stream and said, "Look into the water." The monk saw his reflection ripple. The master then tossed a pebble into the stream, and the image broke into countless fragments. "Do you see?" said the master. "The water does not cling to its own reflection. When disturbed, it waits. And soon the ripples fade and the image returns clear. So it is with our minds. We need not control the ripples. We only need to stop stirring them. The river does not resent the stone. It simply flows around it." Zen saying, sometimes the person who will not leave your thoughts is that very stone, a presence dropped into the flow of your awareness, shaping the current. The ripples may last for years, but they are not your enemy. They are your path. They show you where the current meets resistance, where the heart still clings, where love still fears to let go. The Buddha said, "Nothing whatsoever should be clung to. To live in this truth is to let everything move through you, joy, sorrow, memory, and love, without calling any of it yours. When you stop grasping, life becomes light again. Imagine now that you are standing beside a river at dawn. The world is silent, except for the whisper of water against stone. Mist drifts over the surface like breath. You kneel, touch the cool stream, and feel it move around your fingers. Never the same water twice. You drop a small pebble into it. At first, the rings spread far and wide, but soon they dissolve. The water clears, the reflection returns, and all that remains is stillness. This is what happens when you allow the mind to be as it is. No pushing, no forcing, just observation. The ripples of thought fade on their own when you stop trying to control the flow. Be like water, gentle, yielding, yet unstoppable. Lao Tzu. There is no need to throw away the stone, nor to wish the river still. Both belong to the dance of existence. The stone gives the river its song. The river gives the stone its home. And perhaps, dear listener, this is the meaning of your own restless thoughts. Not to torment you, but to teach you how to flow. If someone has occupied your mind, do not curse their memory. Instead, whisper, "You have shaped me." For that is what all great loves, losses, and lessons do. They carve the riverbed of the soul so that your current may run deeper, your music sound truer. Release does not mean forgetting. It means remembering with peace. It is seeing the stone at the bottom of the river and realizing it has become part of the flow. It no longer disturbs, it belongs. When you accept this, the mind softens, the heart widens, and your awareness opens like dawn breaking over still water. The Buddha once said, "When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky, because in that moment, you see, nothing was ever against you. Even the turbulence was grace. All that you have thought, all that you have felt, all that you have loved, each ripple was necessary to teach you stillness. Without the disturbance, you would never have sought peace. Without the stone, you would never have known how vast the river truly is." So tonight, as you listen, let your breath become the current. Inhale, the river flows in. Exhale, the river flows out. Inhale, life enters. Exhale, life releases. Each breath reminds you of impermanence, yet also of continuity. The breath before was not the breath now, yet both were yours. The river of being flows on, eternal in motion, silent in truth. Now imagine the person who once filled your every thought standing beside this river. Bow to them, thank them, then watch as they walk away, not in sorrow, but in light. They dissolve into the mist, and only their blessing remains, gentle, wordless, free. You are not the thought. You are not the stone. You are the river, vast, compassionate, and endlessly flowing. And even when the world changes, when memories fade, and time reshapes everything you have known, this river within you remains. It is the stream of consciousness itself, the movement of all things toward awakening. So rest now, dear one. Let the ripples quiet. Let the water clear. The stone has settled. The lesson is learned, and the river flows on. Silent, steady, infinite. In this stillness, you will hear it. The softest sound, like the earth breathing, the whisper of peace returning home.